Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. So I'm going to be taking from my book of all the suggestions you guys have been making. And this particular one, well, it's going to be fun, but I've sort of done this before, but I'm going to read this out. Thank you for all the tutorials, but I'd like to see you do something you've never done before. And that was sent by Kat. Well, you guys know I love experimenting, and oops, my binder's gonna fall. And you know that I never turn down a challenge. There are some videos that I've posted recently, stuff I've never done before that I've messed up but didn't edit it out. So this one here, I'm gonna do another experiment. My experiment for this is going to be using the DecoArt clear pouring top coat that's tinted to create a translucent skin on top of something else. And I figured, what a better way of trying this than a mini book of backgrounds. So I'm going to call out the supplies. I may pull something out, not use, but you'll have to see progression wise. I'm using a piece of cardboard taken from, I think it was an old El Paso box of soft tortilla shells, because I needed something really, really strong to hold the skin. So I have it raw, because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. And I'm going to be using the Andy Skinner Incognito stencil. I've got a little piece of paper cut out for the back. This is the Recollections. What is this? I have no idea what the... it doesn't even have a name on it. I have no idea. It's this one. And it's just actually just the first sheet, which is bricks. There's not even a... I have no idea what this is. I don't even know if they sell it. Doesn't really matter because it's just for the back to cover that up like that. Because for a book of backgrounds, they're not formal pieces of art. They're inspiration to do something else. So that's that. And that's going to be done at the end. Now for paint stuff. I moved my DecoArt Chalky Gesso from the tube to an empty container. My matte medium ran out, so I'm just putting it in here, which will be a little bit easier. This is a little hard for me to handle. So the DecoArt Chalky Gesso, the white, then DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics, Phthalo Green Yellow, Raw Umber, Transparent Red Iron Oxide, the DecoArt Media Matte Medium, and the DecoArt Media Mister Carbon Black. So that's that. What I am going to be doing in another experiment in the future is DecoArt's got some the medium misters in a shimmer. I would like to have the black in a shimmer. So what I'm going to be doing is taking some shimmer pigments that I use for my resin, mix it in with this to see what I can get with it. Because I love the shimmers because it's just ever so slight. All right. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to prime with a dry brush. Now with this, you can scrape it on, put it on with your fingers, doesn't matter. But what we want is, we definitely want a good coverage of gesso, and brush strokes like that don't matter. But what happens is when you're painting on raw cardboard is that as it dries, some of the cardboard still shows through, so another coat. Typically, gesso is used to prime a raw surface, and then you put paint on top. But because this one here, we're going to be doing more of a stencil that the gesso background is going to show through, that I'm just going to put on 3 coats of gesso so I get a full opaque finish on it, and then we're going to stencil. So I'm going to dry this, do 2 more layers, and we come back, we'll start the next step. 6 coats of the gesso it took. So, all right. So now I'm going to create the paint mix. I put the Phthalo Green Yellow and the Raw Umber here. I'm going to create a mix, and then I'm going to add a little bit of water. I'm going to put it on here, and then I'm going to splat the card. So let's start off with about 1/4 of the Phthalo Green and about an equal part of Raw Umber. A bit more, so I'm going to be half. The Phthalo Green is a really, really strong. That's better. And you can use Phthalo Green Blue or Phthalo Green Yellow. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so I'm going to a palette knife. And anytime I use the phthalo colors, it gets all over me. Add some water to that. And I normally say don't add too much water when you're using acrylics because it weakens the binder. For this particular case, I just realized that I used the dirty paint water. Oopsie. Okay, let me make another mix. You don't want any white in there whatsoever. My gesso brush was not paint water. All right, so what usually I say you don't want to use too much water when we're working with acrylics because you weaken the strength. With this particular case, because it's just a background, it's just a background, it doesn't matter because we're going to be putting something on top anyways. All right. I'm just going to create some splats. I want to get some bigger. Let's see what I can do with this one. And have some additional cards on the side to create, even more patterns, so that way you're not wasting anything. Okay, like that. So now I'm going to do, take this part here and press, and it's going to go like this. Okay, so I'm going to dry this now, and I'm not going to turn the camera off. I'm just going to dry it just so you can see how I'm going to do this. And my hand being there, I'll know if the heat is too much because I won't be able to take the heat. Then I'll just pull back on the heat gun. And what I'm doing is I'm tilting the card to make sure that the ink, the paint doesn't move too much because I like those striations there. And I'm just going to get a paper towel. And it creates these little outlines. So now I'm going to turn around, come in here, nice. Getting those dots. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, then I'm going to dry that, clean this up, and then I'm going to do the same with the black. Now, if you let this dry naturally, those striations will be much, much stronger, but you're looking at about a good hour for them to dry. If you're in a typical, right now, a typical Canadian environment, we're heading into, this is our Thanksgiving weekend. It's damp and rainy. So, and what I would recommend with all the other stuff here, just pad more cards. That way you have extra things made up. I got paint everywhere. All right, takes care of that. This one here I always make a mess with. So these medium misters, love them, but they always get clogged up because these are permanent. They're not water soluble. So anything with the acrylics is permanent, and it makes it just clogs things up. Okay, that worked out well. I'm actually going to try to do that right on the card. I'll just splat or pick this up. Yeah, and let me now actually do that right on the card for them to be stronger. Now, if you wanted them, so I don't know if you can see this. See how they're going like little spiders? That's because there's still a little bit of water on here. And that's where you're going to get that. I love that, love that, love that, love that. And what you can do is you can drip some water on there and then splat some of this. Of course it's not going to work for me now. Remember, this is just, oops. This is just a background. Okay. That one's a little big. I'm gonna see if I can pick that up. Oh, it looks like a little ink blot. I like that. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry, but I'm gonna get another card. I've got a whole bunch that are primed here. I'm gonna get one that's made of Terraskin. Terraskin is not even paper, it's like paper made from stone. You can go to terraskin.com for information. If you're in Canada, I think it's, if you go to Mit's Art, look at that. Love that. So I'm going to do this one as well. Oh, I like that better than the other one. And it's because it's fluid and it's consistent. Cleanup's a bugger though. Like I said, this stuff is permanent. It's actually acrylic based. That's why the nozzles are always clogging. So the way you get around that is that you turn it upside down, spray it into like a paper, a bag or a garbage can. And the problem with that is that you're wasting so much product. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let that dry naturally. And when we come back, I'm thinking I'm going to do the stencil. Yeah, do the stencil, and then we'll do the top coat. Now, when we're working with the top coat, that takes a long time to dry. Just regular top coats on a canvas. To me, it was 3 days, because this is super, super thick. Now, I guess I could experiment doing that with varnish, but varnish is a different monster. Varnish is actually a protector. This top coat's a protector too, but on the bottle, oh, you know what? In 2 weeks I get new glasses, so I'll be able to not have to take my glasses off. Let me just read that. Where did I see this? Oh, it doesn't say it on the bottle. I must have saw it on their website, but just tinting it a little bit just to see what happens. And I would think if you put too much paint in the top coat, then it'll get sticky. All right, so let's let this dry, and then come back, and then we'll do our stenciling. Okay, I forgot to bring out two of the paints. DecoArt Metallics, and this is copper and zinc, and that's what I'm going to be using to stencil the gears and cogs. I'm going to use a little cosmetic sponge to see how that works. This took, and it's not quite dry yet, there's a little bit of a shiny bit, but it was half an hour and it still wasn't. So, let's see. Is there a right side and a wrong side? No, I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to stencil both. And what I don't want is I don't want to leave a tiny little empty spot on the outside. So let's just do this one here. That's enough there. And I'm going to stencil first with the zinc. And like with this piece is pulling up because the way I'm pressing on it. If you have, your stencils that they don't seem to lay flat, you could use a temporary adhesive. over there, I've got what's called Krylon Easy Tack Repositionable Adhesive. You could use something like that, but you've got to make sure you do that in a well-ventilated area. And many light, even coats. I just got my finger in there. And the background is going to show through. This stuff is a little bit more transparent. I wish it was a little bit more, more opaque. What I'm going to do now, which always makes me nervous when I have little bits and bobs everywhere, I'm going to put this here like that. I'm going to get my hair dryer, not my heat gun, my hair dryer, on the low setting, and I'm going to push the cool to speed up the drying time on this. Without heat, and then I'm going to stamp some more. Me lining stuff up, forget it. It's not going to happen. And pushing the cool, warm, cool, warm. Doing that, alternating, so it doesn't melt the stencil. That's hard to manage with one hand. And let's just do this again. And this metallic is a lot more fluid, and I tend to sometimes have trouble using the stencil brushes with this. Let me just pull that up. See? Some of it did seep underneath. It doesn't take long. And then when I want to clean this, I'll just use rubbing alcohol. And so now, ideally, I would go to the next one because I've got zinc on here already. I'm going to go straight into the copper because once I lift this up, I don't want to go back into it. And just go into some areas. This is just kind of putting a little bit of rust in there, a little bit of decorative accent. Go to a clean area, just blot some of it and pull that up. Okay, like that. Not much contrast there, but again, it's just a background. And I can go over, I can use the same one now and just go right into the copper and just go right in there. So the zinc that was already in the sponge, just use that to darken the copper a little bit. So I'm doing a wet on wet stenciling. So we got another experiment. I think that's too much paint. No, that's all right. Yeah, it didn't get quite the crisp lines I was hoping for, but that's okay. Now, because I don't want this to cure, baby wipe, and I'll just put that aside there. And let's get this dried up, put that into my water. And now I'm going to go with my heat gun and just dry this. Oh, one tip, when you're using a heat gun, okay, again, make sure that it's not too hot for your piece. Terraskin will actually crumple. So a hair blower on the lowest setting would be best. And you can already see that it's starting to warp a little bit. Remember, this isn't paper. But you can go to terraskin.com or Google it just to get more information about it. All right, so that takes care of that. Now, the experiment. So I'm going to take some of this clear pouring top coat. Don't need a lot at all. Get a paper towel. You can wear gloves for this as well. I'm going to pour a little bit here. Don't need a lot. This very much reminds me of triple thick. And I'm going to use, to start, 1 drop of transparent red iron oxide and mix that in. That's actually pretty good. That's not going to be enough. Nowhere near enough. Let me just get a little bit more. Now, when you're using this, you have to make sure that you have a spot ready for drying that's level. And depending on how thick you pour this on, because of the weight of the top coat, your paper might actually bend. Okay, so I'm going to actually dry it on there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my, I actually wish that I had, here we go. And that, let me go get another one of those. The painter's pyramids are great, but this is so small. And what you want to do is basically put that up so if it does drip, it drips off. It doesn't pool on the paper. With the painter's pyramid, because they're points, it does end up creating a bow. And some of you say, well, can I use like a toilet paper roll, or if it's cardboard, the paint's going to stick to it. That's why I like using the these are protein shake scoops. If you're, right now my table is not level. My table, everything flows this way. I have a drying rack set up that's perfectly level. So if you're not sure, what to do is take your paper, lift it up a little bit, and then just take some paper towel. And this is where you can use scrap paper towel if you want. And you can create a little well. But make sure you don't put that so close to here, because if I go like this, look what's happening. It's moving. So make sure it's at the very end. Like that. So that would catch it. So you can do that on all 4 corners. Prepare that ahead of time though. See that's moving? So I'm going to have to go off. I don't need to do this because my thing is level. So I just want to create a little lip there. All right. So now I've got that mixed up. It's settled for a bit. If you put on very, very thick, you might get bubbles. So if I see bubbles in there, I'm going to kind of bust them up a little bit. You can use a heat gun or a hair blower to get rid of the bubbles, but you got to be careful when doing that. And I'm just going to do this. Now, if you've got your mix on, let's say, a little glass tray, that's fine. That'll work as well. That's cool. I'm going to see what this looks like with more coverage. Let's do this really heavy. That's the stronger cardboard. So what I'm going to do with this one, okay, gonna wipe that down. That can go in the water. That I have to wipe. And grab just a little bit more from here. Now this one I'm going to tilt. Now when you do this on canvas, usually you pour from the top. You have this on an angle, you pour from the top and you let it drip right off. I'm not going to do that. I just want to see. So I do want to see some of the background through. Right now I'm looking for an interesting shape. You should be able to see what's happening there. Okay, I'm going to help it along here. I don't have the patience for this. I'm going to feather out the edges a little bit. So I want the whole piece covered, but not necessarily with the same thickness. And this is why it takes a little bit longer to dry. Some areas I do want to see that grain. All right, that looks pretty good. It will self-level, but adding paint to it, I have no idea. I like this one. I like the shapes. This one will take much longer. Yeah, it's already starting to set. It will take, oh, come on. It will take much longer to dry because of the really thick areas. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on my drying rack, and I'm thinking maybe 2 days will be a safe bet. 2 days, and then we come back. We'll see what we've got. And the other thing left really after that is I'm going to collage the paper onto the back of the one card and put some edging on the outside. And I'm thinking I'm just going to use probably a flat black. So it's dried now, except I want to show you something. All right, so this one here, actually, let me just get a close-up of both this way. Oh, goodness. All right, so just to show you the finish, how shiny that is. It turned out really nice. I'm a little disappointed I didn't get the crisp lines through the stencil. That's my fault. That's my fault. I keep forgetting when I'm using more fluid paints, ease up on how much I put on. That's my fault completely. Now this one here, let's see if you can spot the, I'm going to get right to the glare, that little spot there, top right corner, top right. That's me touching it to see if it's dry. Joe said, you know it takes overnight to dry this stuff, just leave it alone. But so I've got some DNA in this one, right there. All right, but look how shiny that is. So awesome for little backgrounds. Now for artist trading cards, really what you could do, depending on the theme, but you think about it, a sentiment and maybe a little embellishment, and that's it. It's finished. But what I want to do is I want to glue. Which one am I gluing the back to? This one here. So let's glue the... Now remember, the DecoArt Clear Pouring Top Coat is not for outdoor use. It's indoor use only. So if you have an idea of thinking you can use that finish for jewelry, you still have to varnish it. You would still have to varnish it, and I would just use either the Americana Gloss Spray or the DuraClear Polyurethane Varnish. You'll never go wrong with that, and you're not going to lose the shine. And by applying the matte medium to both sides, it gives me time to position everything. And what I'm also getting on here is my fingerprints. So when, you know, with this here is just baby wipe and just a quick wipe. Don't leave the cloth on there too long. And I'm just going to push that down. There we go. And then that will take, you know, however long time it takes to dry. So what I'm going to do now is I put out some DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics Carbon Black, and I cut up a little tiny sponge. And I'll do this now. And I'm just going to pad and just finish the edges, especially where the paper was glued to the card, that you're not going to see the line now where the two are together. And what I really like about this one, and I'm just going to push a little bit more to get some of the carbon black onto the front. What I really like about this one is these little pieces here. Those are cool. Those are cool. I've got some matte medium on my finger, so I'm sticking to the card. Then on the back, just going to go in, out, and that's going to give me a vignette look. Light pressure to start, and then you can build it up as you go. It's easy to add, but it's very hard to take away. Because I'm using acrylic paints. If you use the Distress Oxides, and they're water soluble, so you can wipe them off. But I'm just gonna, and the reason why I cut this is that I can get a rough, grungy look for the back. Like that. Okay. All right. So let me just put a little bit more on there. And to be honest with you, now I'm thinking I should have done this before putting the top coat on, because now the edges are a matte finish, but that's okay. I learned. And I also started doing that on the cut side, so all the flecks are coming off. And you can do this any way you want. Like this, just for a straight line, or like this if you want that feathered edge. Completely up to you. And I like that, when you have like a straight line this way and then the feathered edge this way. So one tip I can give you just from experience right now, when you're working on your pieces, make sure your hands are clean. I've got art product all over me and I'm sticking to the cards. I record my videos in batches, so like when there's drawing time I record other videos, and the project before this was working on crackle paste, and I've got stuff stuck to my fingers. All right. Oh, let me get some pretty paper on the table and we'll do a close-up. There we go. So now you have an idea of how you can create a nice little background for your artist trading cards. You just do them in batches, and that way you have them all ready. Then as you're looking for inspiration to create a card, let's say based on a theme or based on a color, whatever, you just flip through, find what you like, and it's ready to go. So give this idea a try. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You know, if you've used some type of glossy medium tinted to create some type of look like this, let me know, because I'd love to learn other methods that you guys are using. And if you have any questions, don't forget to ask away in the comments below, or fire me off an email at artplace.ca, and you can click the contact link. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you enjoyed it, and until I see you next time, stay inspired.